Let's take a look at the decorator design pattern. So what's the problem that we're trying to solve? Well, we want to be able to give additional responsibilities to an object. We want to be able to do it dynamically and not through inheritance. We want to be able to say, here's extra behavior to whatever object we may have. Let's look at an example. Let's say that I've got a text pane and I've got different kinds of text panes, right? I've got one that can scroll, I've got one that has a border, and one that can stretch. So far so good, but I might want a text pane that can both scroll and have a border, or one that has a border and has the ability to stretch, or maybe all three of them. It can scroll, it's got a border, and it can stretch. In this particular case, what do? Well, this doesn't look very good with all the multiple inheritance, and we're going to have a total mess here. So let's try and use the decorator pattern. It's also called a wrapper. Here's the class diagram for it. You've got a component. You've got your do something methods, which is simply just the action or the behavior of this particular component. And you've got your concrete components, which also inherit the do something methods. And then we've got this decorator object. The decorator object contains one of these components. Now, this might look very similar to the composite pattern, but it does have a few differences. Firstly, the decorator only contains one component. Secondly, it's the intent. So the intent of the composite is to have a collection of components, and you want to be able to go through each of the do something method of each component, one after the other. However, with the decorator, what we're trying to do is we're trying to give it either added behavior or added state. Right? We can have concrete decorators here, and as I just mentioned, we can have added behavior or added state, and all it does is it calls firstly the components do something method and then the added behavior before or after it. Right? Let's go back to our previous example and see how we can use the decorator pattern. So we've got a pane, we've got a text pane, which is our plain pane. Then let's decorate it. We can have different kinds of decorators. We can have the scrolly one, the stretchy one, and the bordered one. Remember, the decorator contains one pane, which in this case might be a text pane. So we can in fact take the text pane and put it inside a scrolly pane so that it now scrolls, and then we can take that decorated pane, because that's simply a pane, and put it inside a stretchy pane, and that way I have scrolly and stretchy, and in fact I can do all three if I want to. Let's take a look at another example. Let's say we have an officer, and the plain type of officer is the police officer in this particular case, but we may also want to arm the officer in some way with some weapons. In this particular case, the armed officer, again, because it's a decorator, contains one component. We want to give it added behavior in this case. So the do something method in here may be something like apprehend. And the way a police officer apprehends a criminal may be very different to the way an armed officer apprehends a criminal. Right? So what kind of arms might we give them? Well, we may give one a pistol, another one a machine gun, and so forth. And in this particular case, the armed officer can contain, the pistol armed might contain a machine gun, might contain a bazooka, and finally it contains the police officer itself, which means that we're wrapping the police officer inside all of these decorators. Again, with the logic, the business logic of it, remember with the composite pattern we said that the business logic might not fully work. There are many forces that we're trying to solve with design patterns, and design patterns is a very good solution, but not a perfect solution. In this particular case, for example, an officer could end up with 15 bazookas and 20 pistols and whatnot, right? Lots and lots of machine guns, which might not make any sense in terms of business logic. So the developer needs to be careful about that and write that in the documentation.